My name is Rachel Roffey. I created the show because I wanted to help you see that if you have a choice, you can choose a better life. If you're listening to this podcast, you're in a pretty fortunate position. You have free will, ability to connect to the internet, and access to all kinds of new education. This podcast is meant to help you make the most of your good fortune. We talk with all kinds of people here from all walks of life because I want you to see that no matter what your situation, there's always a way to create a life that you're proud of. Hello. So today's episode, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to give an excerpt from my newest book. It's called Double Your Happiness in 30 Minutes a Day, and it's all about how to set morning rituals and how to go through and just make it inevitable that every day you do things that end up benefiting you. So I'll give you a quick kind of concept of how the book goes, and this way it gives you kind of some context for this podcast, because this podcast is meant to be very beneficial too. It's not just to plug my book or something. The way that the book works is I talk about how to set morning routines and just different types of morning routines. As you know, if you've listened to this podcast for years, I've been huge on morning routines. I had Hal Elrod on here. We did a podcast with him where he talked about his morning rituals, all about the morning miracle, and his book is just incredible. And so I read his book, and I also came across this book from S.J. Scott called Habit Stacking, and they were huge inspirations for this book that I just created. So we talk about how to set the morning routines, how to create discipline in setting morning routines, how to wake up earlier, how to make it inevitable that you actually have these morning routines. And my guarantee in the book is basically I have these different categories, and I tell the reader, go through and rate your happiness on these different categories from 1 to 10. And then I'm going to give you 101 different things that you can do that take 5 minutes or less. And if you pick 6 to 10 of these different things and you do them every day for 30 days, I guarantee that at the end, when you go back and re-rate your happiness, you're going to end up seeing measurable improvements in different categories. So people can go through the 101 different things. They choose whatever they feel like they want to improve the most in their life right now. And I figure with 101 different things, you can find 6 to 10 different 5-minute boosters that will really impact you. The categories are mindset. So there's different boosters for mindset, money, relationships, productivity and goal setting, health, pleasure, and organization. And so for this podcast, I thought, whether or not you decide you want to get the book, I thought that I could go over some of these 5-minute boosters and just listen through. And if there's something that sounds good to you that either you can add to your morning ritual if you already have one, if you want to start doing every day, if you just compound these every day for 30 days, I know that you're going to end up seeing some really great results. So the things that I'm going to tell you, I have 10 or 11 things I'm going to talk about here. They're just from different categories, so they might not feel like they all make sense, but just listen for something that might make sense for you. And even if you decide not to add it to your morning routine, which I highly recommend you do, it's cool things to even add to your consciousness. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that you can do every day is get rejected. And I know this sounds weird, especially because it's in my mindset category. So I originally heard about this concept from someone named Tiffany Hahn. She has a concept called 100 rejection letters. So the premise was she was a couple months into a new year, and she realized that she hadn't really been doing things that were outside of her comfort zone. So she decided she was going to do this 100 rejection letter thing where basically she would write to people, and she said, I'm going to get rejected by Oprah, and I'm going to get rejected by this person and that person. And the thinking being that it would help her push herself out of her comfort zone, be okay with taking risks, and icing on the cake if anybody said yes, awesome, right? But it was not about getting yeses, it was about just taking more risks. And so I've seen that a lot of people have done this 100 rejection letters thing, and people have been saying, wow, it ended up being that a mentor that I wanted to work with said yes to me. I was interviewed on this podcast. I had an article published here. I got to speak here, all these different things because they just took risks they wouldn't normally do. So for you, if you wanted to do this as a 5-minute booster every day, you could do all kinds of things that you'd normally be too scared to ask for. So it could be you email somebody and ask if they'd be interested in mentoring you, or maybe there's a client you want to work with. You can write to them and ask if they'd be interested. It could be submitting your resume to a job that you don't think that you're qualified for at all. It could be asking somebody for a date. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we want to do that we're scared about. So you could even make a master list of all the things that you're scared to do and then just every day do something new. That'd be an awesome 5-minute booster. Something else that's another 5-minute booster is something that I know you've heard about a million times, and I wasn't going to put it on here because I didn't want you to hear this and be like, all right, I can turn off this podcast. The other ones are probably newer, but I felt like I just had to put this on here, which is just create a list of reasons to be grateful. So in the interview that I did with Chad Hadsell, which is one of my all-time most popular podcast episodes, it's rachelrefay.com/Chad-Hadsell, Hadsell. He said for several years he studied personal development, and he realized that happiness could be distilled down to 4 different things, and one of those things was gratitude. Gratitude, there's just so many different benefits to it, but it increases your happiness. It helps you start to realize all the amazing things going on in your life, gets you out of a victim mindset, makes you more optimistic, improves your self-esteem, just makes you feel happier. So if every day for 5 minutes or less, you just create a list of reasons to be grateful. It could be that you make a list of 10 things, maybe you just free write for 5 minutes, however you want to do it. But if you're focusing on things that make you feel gratitude, then you're just going to keep on seeing more things to be grateful about, and it's just a very easy way to feel happier. So that's one thing. Something else you can do to boost your creativity, I don't know if you've heard of these things called story cubes. I think they're so awesome. You can just do a search on Amazon for story cubes, or I'll link them up in my show notes. There are a bunch of dice, and so there are several sides to these dice. I don't know how many, but let's say like 12 sides to these dice, and every side has another picture. It's a completely random picture, so it could be like a question mark or a bee or a book or a train set or roller skate, whatever it is, and you get multiple dice with these story cubes, and so you roll the dice, and then whatever sides the dice land on, you make up a story about those things. So like let's say you have a bee and a chair and a scarf. You go and you make up a story about a bee, a chair, and a scarf. So it's just like a cool way, and it's fun. You can do this with your kids too, to just spark your creativity and start putting concepts together that you wouldn't normally put together. And this will just help you just start to think out of the box a little bit. And you can add it to your business, you can add it to your life, and just basically foster more creativity. So if you're on a budget, you don't want to buy the story cubes. They're pretty inexpensive. I think they're like $10 or something. But even if you don't want to do that, you could just kind of write a bunch of random words onto a piece of paper and then just draw a few every morning from a hat or something. Just awesome. I love doing those story cubes. They make me so happy. I originally found out about them at like one of those brain stores, and I just absolutely adore them. Another thing you can do, and this would fall into the money category, is just track all the money that came in and went out from the day before. So I've talked about this on other podcasts where, even if you have a regular job, if you just track the money that you're bringing in and spending, you'll start to get a better feel for where your money is going. You'll start to see where you might be making unconscious purchases. You can also start to celebrate what you have when money comes in, get you in a mindset of abundance, and then also just see where you're spending money on things you don't really need. So if you want the spreadsheet that I use, if you go to rachelrefay.com/finance spreadsheet, you don't have to opt in or anything. I just use a very, very simple 4-column spreadsheet where I talk about money that came in, all the notes about what it was, money came out, and then the notes about what it was. Something else you could do, and this is in the category of relationships, is just have a long-standing 5-minute call with a friend. So it might be you do this every day for 5 minutes. It might be you talk to different friends every day for 5 minutes. But a lot of us, as we get busier and busier, we don't talk to our friends as much, and especially like our older friends, because we just have so much stuff going on. And I know for me, sometimes I'm like, ugh, if I get on a call with somebody, it could end up being this hour-long call. I don't have time for that. But you can actually get a lot done in 5 minutes. So if you and a friend talk about having a 5-minute timer with a call where you just catch up, 2.5 minutes each, just talk about whatever is going on for the day, just to be heard, just to hear your friend's voice too. Just a cool way to stay in touch and have connection with friends, and also have that structured end time. So it's a great way to just keep that contact. Something else in the realm of relationships is do something kind for your partner. It might be you put a Post-it with a compliment and put it on their computer, or you make them a smoothie, or maybe you write them a note and put it in their wallet. Or it could be even something where you have like a dry erase board and every day you just write down a new reason why you love them for the day. Or just ask yourself, like, what would be something that would make them happy for the day? And then do that. Something else you can do is break down any overwhelming tasks that are going on for you. So if there's something that you've been wanting to do but it's felt super overwhelming, it's just because you haven't broken it down enough. So if you want to tackle a new big project, start writing down every step that it's going to take to accomplish that project. And as you're writing down the steps, if any of those steps feel too big to you, then break them down. So for example, if you want to create a blog post, then it might feel overwhelming to say, I want to write a blog post on some topic that just feels like there's so many things. So then maybe you break it down into writing an outline first. Or let's say you want to do like a PowerPoint presentation, a whole thing, then maybe you take some time to make an outline or just jot down the different things you want to include. So maybe you just index card some of the things that you want to include in there. Put down all your key points and stuff. So the more that you break down, and let's say you put a key point that feels overwhelming there, well then break that down even further. And the more and more you break things down, the easier it's going to be to actually take things on and just keep moving with them. Something else you can do is create agendas. So if you have calls or meetings set up for the day, you know that a lot of times these things can go on way longer than anticipated because there's no clear direction for them, so they can go in a zillion different directions. So if you just take a few minutes in your morning and set up agendas for whatever you're about to do, and you can clearly tell people what the focus of a meeting is going to be or what you want to accomplish, there's just going to be less time for mindless chatter and the focus and efficiency will be a lot greater. Something else you can do that falls into the health category is bag up some snacks for the day. So instead of letting yourself potentially get hungry later on because you haven't thought ahead, you can just take a couple minutes every day and either bag up like some almonds or some fruits, carrots, celery. They have those like Justin's nut butters with the peanut butter and almond butter. You can pack that up. Lara bars, U bars, Kind bars, hard-boiled eggs. There's all kinds of things you can pack up so that you're set up for the day. Another thing you can do is give yourself a massage with a tennis ball. So if you haven't heard about this, life changer. Basically, with a tennis ball or there's all kinds of any kind of ball really. You can go through and with any areas of tension in your body, basically either you lie on a floor or go against a wall and rub the ball against whatever the tension in your body is. So it's called trigger point therapy. So for example, let's say you have something on your back that is bothering you, some kind of tension. You just put the ball against a wall and then you put your body against the ball and you can just like move around with the ball and just rub out whatever that tension is. And it actually works really, really well. It feels so good. So if there's any tension in your body, it just gives yourself a quick little massage and you can feel a lot better really quickly. Something else you can do for just 5 minutes every day is just read a guilty pleasure magazine or a website. So I talked about in another podcast how even the term guilty pleasure, I don't love it because I don't know why any pleasure has to be guilty, but I think it's something that people can relate to, so I'll still use the word. But take a few minutes every day to just do something that you really enjoy, even if it does absolutely nothing for you productivity-wise, or it's something that you wouldn't like tell people about, but it makes you happy. Who cares? Do it. So maybe you go like read a gossip magazine, go on Perez Hilton, that gossip blog, whatever it is. Just something that makes you feel good. It's like candy for your soul, no matter what other people might think. And if you create that space to do it, then you might find out that you don't even want to do it anymore because now you're making it an accepted thing. Or maybe you just enjoy it and you just you just give yourself permission to do things that people might not say are the best things. Who cares? You know, if you like it, you like it. Something else you can do is just take 5 minutes every day to get rid of something new. Or something old. But basically, the more items that we have, it just takes up psychic energy. So I'm not saying get rid of everything in your life because there's some things that are great to have around because they have happy memories. But there's usually a lot of things taking up space in your psyche that can be gotten rid of. So some of the things that you can get rid of each day It can be small things like old voicemails, pictures on your phone that you don't look at anymore, you don't use. It can be emails from your inbox. It can be expired food or clothes you don't wear, old wire hangers or trash, items on your hard drive. I once had my computer stolen and I lost everything because my computer wasn't backed up. It felt awesome. It felt so good to not have that stuff anymore. It felt like I was just completely starting fresh. It could be apps on your phone that you don't use, or old makeup if you wear makeup, or newsletters. You can unsubscribe from newsletters you don't read anymore, or contacts on your phone that you don't talk to, books you'll never read again, old receipts. All these different things, they do take up space. You know how when you clean your closet or you start to clean something, all of a sudden you feel so much better when you get rid of stuff. Well, it works with everything. So if you take 5 minutes every day to get rid of stuff, I think it has a very clear correlation to when you clear the things in your outside, your mind starts to get clearer too. Anyway, these are just a bunch of different things that hopefully, you found one or two as I was going through them that you think, wow, I'd like to do that for the day. There's going to be the show notes, so for anything I mentioned, you'll be able to go through and read the show notes on rachelroffe.com, but hopefully you found a couple things that you think would add value to your life. And as I said before, this was designed to be a beneficial podcast whether or not you decide to purchase the book. But if you do like this, then please grab the whole book. For a limited time, it's going to be 99 cents, and then it's going to go to $2.99. So it's super inexpensive. You'll get all the rest of the 101 ways and everything else that I said. And that's going to be over at rachelroffe.com/morningbook. Again, rachelroffe.com/morningbook. Thanks so much for listening. Hope that you enjoyed this. Please leave a comment on rachelroffe.com if you liked it, or you have any questions, or you have any requests for any future episodes. I'll look forward to talking to you on the next one. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for listening to A Better Life. You can find all show notes for this episode at rachelroffe.com. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you can automatically get access to all new shows. Let's also connect. Just go onto Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram /RachelRoffe, and we can talk there. The opinions of all guests here are their own, and I'm not necessarily endorsing any of them. I do want to give you perspective, though. And always remember, if you have a choice,